ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਹਾਂਜੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਫਤਿਹ ਬੁਲਾ ਲਈਏ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। It's very easy to think that Sukha Singh ਦਾ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਖਰਾਬ ਆ because he gets us to say Fateh 5 times. ਤੇ when I say Fateh, I see a young 5-year-old standing up inside a wall, and I see a man standing over his head saying, "How dare you say Fateh here? How dare you say Fateh here in the court of Wazir Khan?" And that young 5-year-old looks up, and his eyes full of light, and he smiles back, and he says, "Wherever I say Fateh, the sound of Fateh rings until the end of time." You think that you could kill me? That young 5-year-old says, "सच को मिटाओगे तो मिटोगे जहान से, डरता नहीं अकाल किसी शहनशाह की शान से, सुन लो जरा कान दे के हम बोल रहे हैं खुदा की जुबान से." Baba Fateh Singh says, listen to what I have to say. It's not me speaking. Listen to what I have to say. He is speaking through me. And I'll tell you, Wazir Khan, तू मिट्टी हो जाना, तेरे कोट ने मिट्टी हो जाना, सारे ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਖੜੇ ਆ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮਿੱਟੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਾ, ਪਰ ਮੇਰੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ end of time ਤੱਕ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੂੰਜਦੀ ਰਹੂਗੀ. Everything will become dirt, but these 8 words that come off my tongue will not become dirt. These 8 words that I say will change this court of the Mughal emperor into Fatehgarh. That is why I care so much about those 8 words. Because when I say those 8 words and I end Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, I see him looking back at me. And I see his Fateh, I hear his Fateh in my ears. And that Fateh makes me say to the other person, say it with conviction. Because he said it with conviction. Say it with love, because he said it with love that we can feel even today. Say it with 150% of your soul, and your Fateh will become that Fateh of his. That is why I care so much about Fateh. So before I begin, ਆਪਾਂ ਉਸ 5 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਕਰੀਏ. Let's try and bring some of that emotion into the Fateh, and I will be walking around the stage because that is what I do. But just to bring that emotion, seriously, mentally serious ho jo. We have a fun camp, there's hundreds of things to do, but seriously, these 8 words are the foundation. And even before I go into my lecture topic and all this stuff and philosophy and all that different type of stuff, you know, when Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Bhai Dalla said, how is Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa? What does it mean, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa? Bhai Dalla says, what is this Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa that you talk about? Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, you know what they said? They said, Dalla, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, because it just means the Khalsa belongs to God. ठीक है ना? That's what we say, Khalsa belongs to God, है ना? And Bhai Dalla said, does Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa mean जितना डल्ले दे खेत? Because in Punjabi they used to say डल्ले का के खेत. Even today they say फलाने का कर. कहते हैं ना? ओ फलाने का कर. फलाने के खेत. He said, is Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa like that? Like my khet? Like my house? Like my money? Like my horses? Like my armies? And you know what Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj said? Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj said, Dalya, even after Dalla goes, Dalle ke khet will remain. Dalle ke khet will become someone else's khet. Those khet will become someone else's khet. Dalla's house will become someone else's house. Dalla's money will become someone else's money. But he said the Sikh who says Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, when he says Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, when she says Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, I will stay with him until the end of time. That is how much conviction, that is how much faith is in these 8 words. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa isn't Dalle ke khet. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa isn't Dalle ki zameen. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa isn't Dalle ka paisa. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa is Guru Gobind Singh. So, just before we begin, I think that was enough of a lecture to convince you. Just before we begin, let us join our hands together. Seriously, these 8 words, that's all they are. Apa gaj ke bulaiye. and then we'll begin. So सारे हुण सारिਆਂ ने फतेह गजाउणी आ, and I want you to have Dalla in your mind. When Dalla stands there, Guru Sahib Ji says, Dalle ka khet wangu nahi Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa. Dalla mar jayega, na Vaheguru ne marna, na ode Khalse ne marna. That is Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa. So let's say it together. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. ਅਜੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਬਾਬਾ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੰਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਈ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫੇਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਬੁਲਾਉਣਾ ਆ, ਹੱਥ ਜੋੜ ਲਓ। ਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਜਿਹੀ ਆਉਂਦੀ, ਆ ਫਲਾਨਾ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ, ਮੈਂ ਮੇਰੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਹੋਰ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ, ਇਹ ਫਲਾਨਾ। ਗਿਵ ਅਪ 올 ਯੋਰ ਝਾਕਾ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਫਤਿਹ ਬੁਲਾਉਣੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਈਏ ਕੈਂਪ 'ਚੋਂ, ਘਰ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਘੱਟੋ ਘੱਟ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਏਗਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ what is it? not ਡੱਲੇ ਕੇ ਖੇਤ ਨਹੀਂ, सुखे की कार नहीं, वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा. So all together now we will try. This is the last time I will ask you to say Fateh, maybe. So please take a few seconds, compose your mind, take it back to Baba Fateh Singh Ji, 5-year-old standing there. And this isn't mythology, this isn't made up, this isn't Christmas that we have an idea of a Santa Claus. This isn't Easter where you need an Easter bunny to entice you to worship. This is Sikhi. This is Baba Fateh Singh. This is a 5-year-old's blood falling down walls and shaking those walls until the end of time. And those niha, where Baba Fateh Singh Ji's tiny feet stood, those niha became the foundations of the Khalsa Raj. And even today inside us, when we say Raj Karega Khalsa, we have those same foundations, that same blood of Baba Fateh Singh, which runs through us and comes up upon our tongue, and we say Raj Karega Khalsa. Even today that is the foundation of our Raj, and I'm going to go through that today. But please, let's join together this time. Akkhan band karo sare jane. Don't worry, I'm not going to take your credit cards. I'm not going to say anything else. Close your eyes. ਬਾਬਾ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ, ਬਾਬਾ ਜ਼ੋਰਾਵਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ, ਕਲਗੀਧਰ ਬਾਜਾਂ ਵਾਲੇ ਨੀਲੇ ਘੋੜੇ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਾਹ ਸਵਾਰ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਸੁਣਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ, ਸਾਰੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੁਆਇਨ ਟੁਗੇਦਰ ਤੇ ਗੱਜ ਕੇ ਆਖੋ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. And with that glorious beginning to the lecture, I will now turn it down and do my Mangalacharan. The reason why I do this Mangalacharan was I was reading once in a Sahaj part, and you can't put this into the video, this particular bit. I was reading once in Sahaj part, and when I came across this Shabad in Gaudi Rag, I couldn't go further. Because this Shabad is just, all of Gurbani is beautiful and amazing. But you know the bit of the arrow which hits you, tonu ode vichon bada pyar lagda. This is the bit which pierced me. I want you to read this. And I use this Shabad. You know, we were talking about Vakar earlier. When I need that guiding hand, this is a Shabad that I sing. Which is why wherever I do Katha, this is a Shabad I come back to. So I'm going to sing this Shabad. Those of you who know my tune, yes, you know who you are. You can already join in. Those of you who don't, I'm sure you can join in. I'll sing all of the tuqa, and hopefully those of you who can join in will join in with me. Satnam Sri Vaheguru Ji. Just before I begin, can everyone see the board? Can everyone see the Shabad? Am I blocking anyone? No? I'm blocking you guys. Okay, let's begin. Pujval Bhira ब्रह्म सुख सागर गर्त परत गहले हो अंगुरिया, गर्त परत गहले हो अंगुरिया. Let's all try now. Pujval Veera ब्रह्म सुख सागर गर्त परत गहले हो अंगुरिया गरत परत गहले हो अंगुरिया श्रवण न सुरत नैन सुंदर नहीं श्रवण न सुरत नैन सुंदर नहीं आरत द्वार रटत पिंगुरिया आरत द्वार रटत पिंगुरिया दीनानाथ अनाथ करना मैं दीनानाथ अनाथ करना मैं साजन मीत पिता महतरिया साजन मीत पिता महतरिया चरण कमल हृदय गहनानक चरण कमल हृदय गहनानक पैसागर संत पारे उतरिया पैसागर संत पारे उतरिया ना हो जती सती नहीं पढ़िया मूर्ख मुगदा जन्म पया प्रणवत नानक तिन की सरना जिन तो नाही विसरिया जिन तू नाही विसरिया Gurbani is not the topic of my lecture. I might just go through a list of what I'm not going to talk about. Banj Pyare is not what my lecture is about. I'll give you a whole list of topics. But it's something that I very rarely say, and those people who know me, I very rarely do this. मैं टेक ना जावा इथों मेरी सिंगनी खुश नहीं होगी जे मैं टेक पिया क्योंकि मेरे सिंग पंगा लेंदा रहंदा. Please edit that out as well. Otherwise the whole world will know I'm afraid of my singing. No, they call it love. I think that's what they meant to say. I think that's what you're meant to say. You're in love. Okay. So, hello if you're watching. Right, so I've taken this position on a chair rather than standing because I felt like it. Right? So what I want you to do today is this. Firstly, I want to share two words. Well, maybe a little bit more. I don't want you to think that Sikhi is something which drops out of the sky. Especially those of you new to Khalsa Roop or to Sikhi Saroop. As far as my journey goes, and I don't want this to be recorded really, so if you are, please pause. As far as my journey goes, I know and I can tell you that my mum's ardas is what brought me and still brings me through today. Her Sukhmani Sahibs, her ardasan and her tears in front of Guru Granth Sahib. Seriously, when Guru Arjan Dev Ji says Mata ki Asis, you don't understand the power that is in that Asis, especially women. Why has Guru Arjan Dev Ji picked that? It's a totally different topic, but I just want to tell you that in my house, we were all atheists. But it was one ardas by my mother which changed my life. And I didn't get taught Punjabi. I didn't go to a camp. I didn't listen to Katha. I didn't meet anyone in particular. Harmandir Sahib and my mother's ardas changed my life. But that is another topic for another day. Needless to say, I wasn't born with a damalla and a chola. Many people, they see you doing prachar and they think that you jumped out with your Siri Sahib on going, Bole Sonia. That's not the way it happens, unfortunately. So let's just get that clear in the first place. Tiga? And now you have this really funny image of a little Sukha Singh jumping out with a big massive dada, 8 months. Bole Sonia. Why do I say that to you? Because Sikhi is Guru Sahib's bakshish. And it comes when you open up your heart, bas. Whether you're 7, whether you're 11, whether you're 27, whether you're near death, you just need to open up your heart. And that is why today on the Sajana Divas of Anandpur Sahib, we're going to try and open our hearts up later this evening with history. But I just wanted to give you one presentation about the Khalsa Soch, about the mindset of a Sikh. I think, has anyone seen this presentation before? Haath khade kar do. You don't count. You're from Sacramento. People who are from Sacramento don't count. Not as human beings or anything, but just in this particular. Are you from? Where are you from? Are you from Sacramento, Singh Sahib? You don't count. Has anyone else? Has anyone apart from the Sacramento? Ajay Pal, you just don't count. In this ginti. Basically, I'm going to take it further than what I did. On that day, I only went through 3 examples. Name them. No, there wasn't amongst them. The type of Sikh that Guru Nanak Dev Ji made at Kartarpur, the type of Sikh that Guru Angad Dev Ji made at Khadur Sahib, the type of Sikh that Guru Amar Das Ji made at Goindwal, the type of Sikh that Guru Ram Das made at Amritsar Sahib, the type of Sikh that Guru Arjan Dev Ji Shahidi made, the type of Sikh that Guru Har Gobind's Akal Takht made, the type of Sikh that Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji's Kiratpur made, the type of Sikh that Tan Guru Har Krishan Sahib Ji's challenge to the Emperor Aurangzeb made, the type of Sikh that Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji's Anandpur made, the type of Sikh that Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj's Hajur Sahib made. What is the mentality of that Sikh? What is the soch of that Sikh? What is the psyche of that Sikh? Don't worry, I won't fall over my tar. Right. I want to go through just a few examples. In the world, most people say, I move around a bit, I'm not well today. They're probably thinking he's probably not well most of the time. I'm actually struggling to keep alive at this moment, but somehow I'm doing it. The world says you are a king if you have a crown. The world says you are a king if people bow down to you. Keep awake and keep looking this way. Those of you who are sleeping next to you, if there's someone with their eyes closed asleep, make sure you give them an elbow jolt. If it's Anand, then that's something else. I will call you out the second time. You know who you are. Don't think I don't know you. Lal Shatwaria. Right, now everybody looks around. So, what is that mentality of a Sikh? The world says you must have money, you must have land, you must have riches, you must have people to bow down to you. But Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj breaks all of those definitions. This is the greatest revolution that happened those 300 years ago, and it happens to this day. A king is not made by a crown. A king is not made by land. A king is not made by money. Tan Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj Sache Padshah, Tan Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj Sache Padshah said, you become the king, the crown will fall at your feet. You become the queens, the princes, the crowns will fall at your feet. In Greeb Sikhan ko द्यों पातशाही जे याद रखे हमरी गुरियाई 1.25 से 1 लड़ाऊं गिद्धड़ों से मैं शेर मराऊं चिड़ियों से मैं बाज तुड़ाऊं तबे गोबिंद सिंह नाम कहो. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj said, you become a soldier, you become a king, you become a princess, you become a prince, you become a queen, and the world's crowns will fall at your feet. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj broke down the shackles of our minds. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj says, you think there's one type of king in this earth? Tan Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, there's 3 types of king. The first type of king comes up on the board behind me. Can everyone see? Am I sort of in the way? मैं तो था ही रोकदा जिथे भी जाना. Now maybe you won't be able to see. चेयर दा काम ही मकाओ. Right. Now I can't see the people at the back. And I wouldn't be able to tell if Mr. Singh was sleeping or not. चेयर रखनी पैनी है. दमनजीत डंडे नूं तेल ला ला. Right. तैयार है? ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੈ. Right, so ਧੰਨ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ, look at this, the revolution which came. These people who used to work in the fields, these people who used to make shoes, these people who people used to spit on and say, these people, you're going to make an army out of these people, these shoemakers. You're going to make an army out of these farmers. You're going to make an army out of these people who can't even pick up a sword. Guru Nanak Sahib said yes. And it begins in Kartarpur. It begins in Kartarpur. Khulla challenge of Guru Nanak begins in Kartarpur. These are the people, the grassroots people, the people who you downtrod. These are the people who I'm going to make kings. These are the people who are going to be called Sardar until the end of time. Our Sardari doesn't come from any worldly crown. Become a Sardar and your Sardari comes to you naturally. Become a Sardarni and your Sardarniness falls at your feet. Sardarniness. I created a new word. Woo! So, first king in Gurbani. Let's read the Tuk. If you can't see, Made Karam. Right? You've been talking about Karma and Sanskar today, you know? Made Karam. So, let's read the Tuk behind me. Nanak. Not na. All together. Nanak. Hor. Patsahiyan. Kudiyan. Naam. Ratte. Patsa. Now you have to say like I'm saying it. Nanak. Like that. Nanak. Hor. Patsahiyan. Kudiyan. I can't believe I'm getting a group of people to do this. Okay, we'll do it properly. Naam, Ratte, Padsa. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj says, Kau Nanak sun Babar Mir, Tujte Mange, so Ahmed Fakir. It's not from Guru Granth Sahib Ji, don't have a heart attack. It is from the Janam Sakhiyan. Kau Nanak sun Babar Mir, Meri gal sun. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is not a picture on your wall. What do you call sitting rooms here? Front rooms? Ki kehne? Huh? Living room? Whatever. Yeah? Guru Nanak Dev Ji is not simply the picture on there. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is a roar that comes out of that picture and will hit you over if you're there to listen. Kaya Nanak sun Babar Mir. Oh, meri gal sun. You are the man who could cut off my head. You are the man who has set fire to people's houses. You are the man who has set thousands of women to be raped in the streets. Meri gal sun. Kaya Nanak sun Babar Mir. Tujte mange, so Ahmed Fakir. If I was to bow down to you, I will never be able to bow down to God again. Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, my knees, I fell down upon my knees in front of God. I'm never going to fall down in front of you. Nanak, hor pat sahiyan kudiyan, naam rate pat sa. Dhan Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, Sache Padshah Ji, in these tukan, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj says, if you have that feeling of God's love inside, if you have that devotion to the name of God, if you have that devotion to God, you are a king. Okay. सोची पिया बेचारा एडा वड्डा थ्रोन बना के Sagal Sesht ko Raja Dukhiya. Look at these kings of the world. They cry. Tony Blair, do you know Tony Blair? Everyone's like, oh, kaun hunda? George Bush di udharan dama. Fir tikane paugi gall. When Tony Blair came into power, if the person next to you is sleeping, give them a kuni, otherwise I will get up and do it. हाँ सोया करो रज के रात दे 11-12 बजे तक गिदड़ा वांगू भाबतियां ना मारो शेर जकारे मारदे हुंदे अमृत वेले गुरु गोबिंद सिंह दा नगारा पता किन्ने बजे बजदा हुंदा सी 12:50 ते नगारा वजदा हुंदा सी आई थिंक 12:50 ते तुहाडे कमरे च फिर ते घड़ारे ही वजदे होने होर तां नगारा तां नहीं वजदा होना seriously. The same Nagara from Anandpur Sahib that made the Pahadi Raje tremble. That Nagara used to start beating and udo pata ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਦੇਗਾ. This young child, because they saw Guru Gobind Singh Ji as a young child, ਇਹ ਕੁਛ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤਾ ਇਹ ਰੋਕ ਨਹੀਂ. Anyway, these kings of the world are dukhi. They have pain inside. But I'll show you a king, and when you see that king, he stands over the body of his 17-year-old son, and he says, Daya Singh, if you can't cover the rest of my sons, then you can't cover this son who's laying in my feet. Serious, this is what happened. When your guru left Chamkaur Sahib, his foot gets stuck in the clothes of his eldest son. Baba Daya Singh, one of the Panj Pyare, takes off his hajuriya, his kamar kasab, and he's about to cover Baba Ajit Singh's face. And that king says, if the rest of my sons, if Himmat Singh, if Mohkam Singh, if Sahib Singh, if Alam Singh, if Katha Singh, if these Singhs, Karbara Singh, Dilbag Singh, if those Singhs cannot be covered, then my son Baba Ajit Singh is no greater to me than them. That is a king who is not Dukhiya. That is a king who lives in Anandpur. He may be in Chamkaur, but he lives in Anandpur. Our house is Anandpur. Doesn't matter where you go, and I'm going to talk about the Anandpur thing tomorrow. Asi Khalse haan. Khalse di wasi a. Sada ਘਰ ਆ Anandpur. ਅਸੀਂ ਰਹਿਣ ਵਾਲੇ Anandpur ਦੇ. ਸਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਆ Anandpur. ਸਾਡੀ ਮੌਤ ਆਵੇਗੀ ਉਹ Anandpur ਚ ਆਵੇਗੀ. Doesn't matter where a Sikh dies, he dies in Anandpur. He lives in Anandpur. By Mani Singh being cut to bits, and he laughs. Why? Because he's dying in Anandpur. Aha. 20 years ago, by Gurdev Singh Dibbu being boiled alive, and he doesn't move because he's dying in Anandpur. By Mani Singh was cut bit to bits 200 years ago. And member of the Panj Membri committee, what was their name? Can someone tell me? Who was cut to bits. ਬੋਟਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੱਟਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਉਸ ਮਹਾਨ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਦਾ. There's a picture of him in black and white. ਪਤਲਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਸਰੀਰ. I'll leave that till tomorrow. You guys can do your homework. The person who comes to me and tells me his name, that person will be blessed. Anyone have a name? He was a member of the committee made by the Panth in 1986. There's 5 of them. That narrows it down. Anyway, let's keep focused. I'm really happy to finish on time. You don't understand. I'm quite happy to let you go. So if you keep with me, we can get through this quickly. Louis ਸੀਗਾ Louis. ਫ੍ਰੈਂਚ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਰਾਜਾ ਸੀ. ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਜੁਲਾਈ ਦੀ 14 ਨੂੰ ਜਦੋਂ ਦਾਸ ਦਾ ਜਨਮ ਹੋਇਆ ਉਸ ਦਿਨ, not back in that time, but that is my birthday. Bastille Day happened. There were some people, they wanted bread. He wouldn't give them their bread. They cut off his head. That's Gurmeer, is that about right? Is that about right? ठीक है. Philosopher है साडा भाई Gurmeer Singh. That's why I asked. Basically, it was to do with bread. It was to do with food. ठीक है. आहो, but it happened because of that. सिर बांटता उन्होंने ब्रेड दे करके. Right, so the causality, the history, how it joined together, that's what I'm talking about. Okay? I was born many years ago, but I'm sitting here today. It was because I'm born that I'm sitting here. So, by that great Punjabi cyclic way of thinking, we get back to this. Kya Sultan Salam Vihuna? Gurbani says, what is a king if no one bows down to him? Guru Granth Sahib Ji says, तू एक बारी रब दे सामने झुक जा, लख 84 मेदनी सब सेव करंदा. Everything that God has created falls down to your feet. You fall down to God. If you give up yourself to God, God gives you the amount of power to fight against the world. Surrender to God. You can struggle against the world. If you struggle against God, then you surrender to the world. And we find it happy to surrender to the world. As he koshan, giving up our boli, giving up our pace the way we're meant to be, giving up our guru for the world, we're happy. We think we are anyway. So, first king in Gurbani, Tan Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj says, this is the king. Let's read it together. So, Pati Saho, Saha, Pati Sahib, Nanak, Rahan, Rajai. Your Japji Sahib is revolutionary. Your Japji Sahib is saying, I do not believe in any other king apart from God. Your Japji Sahib is challenging the emperors and the kings and the princes of the world. That Japji Sahib which you mumble every day, that Japji Sahib has got so much power. It's saying every day it's a challenge. Ohi a Badshah. Mera sir kisi de more chukda nahi, tut sakda ya, par chukda nahi. That's Guru Nanak. That's my Satguru Nanak. That's my Sabte Vadda Satguru Nanak. That's my Jagat Guru Baba. That's my Bukiya Singh Ujad Vich. Sab mere gavel panni jaye. Singh Bukke. तू डर ना हुण रेवोल्यूशनरी सुन के तारे हजे तां असीं बहुत दूर जाना. Now I'm going to finish very soon. Famous last words. The second king in Guru Granth Sahib, 3 kings. First is God, second is Guru. And we'll read the Tok Tod, Ditte, Sache, Paatshah. Mal, Janam, Janam. When you said Janam, I was like, have I said Janam twice? Or have I said it once? The Katiya. Your Prakash Seva is another challenge again. Your Prakash Seva, when you cry out, this is my king, this is my king, you are not my king, this is my king, another challenge falls down to the Ditte Sache Padshah. First king is, second king is, and the third king, huh? 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 Let's read it together. Jis, no, Bakse, Sift, Sala, Nanak, Pat Sahi, Pat Sa. God is my king. The Guru is my king. The Guru is the one you can see God shining in. The Sikh is the one you can see the Guru shining in. God is my king. Guru is my king. That Gursikh who feels the Guru running through his or her veins, that Gursikh is a king. Akali Baba Phula Singh, Jathedar of Buddha Dal, Jathedar of Akal Takht Sahib. Before him, even Maharaja Ranjit Singh fell down. You don't need a crown to be a king. Become a king and you'll get your crown. Apne ghar aavo. Sant Jarnail Singh used to say, Sikho, Anandpur Sahib aavo. Apne ghar ch aavo. Apne ghar ch jeevo. Apne ghar ch maro. Come back home. Come back to Anandpur Sahib. Guru Gobind Singh emptied his house so that you could sit upon his throne. Apne ghar aa jao. I want to give you some examples. These aren't just things that are written on paper. They're written in the blood of so many Singhs and Singhaniya. Who is the first king? Who is the first king? Who is the first king? Let's use our word, Waheguru. Who's the first king? Who's the first king? Who's the second king? Who's the second king? Who's the third king? Gursikh. So let's take that again. First king, second king, third king. The Guru, God is the king. The Guru is the king because he has God inside. मेरी बैटरी नहीं लो, लैपटॉप दी बैटरी लो आ, थोड़ी बैटरी लो हो गई. Oh dear, सच्चे पातशाह कैलिफोर्निया दा की बनूगा? हाँ. चुम चुम रखो नी कलगी जुजार दी. Where's my backup group? इस चुम चुम रखो भुल थोड़ो गया सीगा, ये भुल गई सी. ढोलकी नहीं खड़काउनी भरावा. Right, I'm going to finish now. Just 3 examples. This man behind me, anybody know his name? जेड़ा मेरे मगरे आ. Anji, what did you say? Singh. My dancing Adani, no. No. My dancing? Just going to say random things. Dancing, Atar Singh, Nanda Singh. All these like generic names. Anji, anyone else? Bhai what? Does he look like Bhai Dalla to you? Hanji, anyone else? Hanji. Huh? Oh, sorry, Singh, I can't hear you. Can you shout a little bit louder? Hanji? No, I wouldn't be saying dude if it was Guru Har Gobind Sahib. This Gursikh behind me, who is it? Good guess though, I suppose. Looks sort of the same. Andy? Hari Singh is right. His name is Hari Singh Pangi. Oh yeah, मैं तो कहने लगा सी. मैनू तो सिख इतिहास सारा ना अंदर लिखा आया. मैं तो सूरज प्रकाश यहाँ तुरिया फिरदा. Right. You guys are like, oh, why do I come to America? मेरी गाल सुनो. Right. मेरी गाल सुनो, बच्चों. Right. This is Hari Singh Pangi. A Guru ka Sikh becomes a king and then the crown falls at his or her feet. Becomes a queen and the crown falls at his or her feet. Now what I want to tell you about this man is Hari Singh Pangi, he controlled the area around Amritsar Sahib before Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So that area was all under his control, Hari Singh Pangi, Amritsar Sahib. He had all of that land, the whole Jilla, the whole district under his control. And Ahmad Shah Abdali, who was leading the Afghans, was coming back from Delhi. And when he was coming back from Delhi, he sent someone to go and meet Hari Singh. Because he said, if I can just win Hari Singh to my side, get him to fight against the rest of the Singhs, once I take over Amritsar, they will all have to bow down to me, Ahmad Shah Abdali thought. And he sends to Hari Singh a man, a messenger, and that messenger has a casket with him. A basket, casket, whatever you want to call it. He has something with it on the end. Only padya hath dabba. And in that dabba, what he has is he has silk de shawl, pashmina shawls. He has badams from Kashmir. He has diamonds put upon that shawl. You think the badams not your Californian badams, but Kashmiri badams. ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਵਾਦ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ. The farmers are gonna gang up on me. Right. ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵੀ ਬਦਾਮ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਦ ਆ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਾਰੀ ਸ਼ਰਦਾਈ ਪਿਲਾਈ ਆ ਨਾ ਬਦਾਮਾਂ ਦੀ. ਕਦੇ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ. ਫਿਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬਦਾਮਾਂ ਦੀ ਬਦਨਾਮੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਆ ਤੇ ਉਦੋਂ ਫਿਰ ਦੁੱਖ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ. Anyway, Hari Singh Pangi, he receives this guy, this messenger, and the messenger comes. Oi, oh hello. Sorry, I caught someone. Right, anyway, when they walk in, no, we're not going to do that. Right, so, ਗੱਲ ਸੁਣੋ. Hari Singh Pangi, ਇਹ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਵਿਚਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਾ. Right, so Hari Singh Pangi, he gets a messenger from Ahmad Shah Abdali. Firstly, Ahmad Shah Abdali has been completely destroying everyone who comes in his way. He sends a basket. Inside that basket he has shawl, Kashmiri badams, and he has diamonds in that. And he goes and he says, go and give this to Hari Singh Pangi. And when he comes, Hari Singh sitting there, and he comes and he says, Raja ji, Hari Singh ji, Ahmad Shah Abdali to aap ji vaste ek keemti shawl aaye ne. We have sent these shawls for you. We have sent these almonds from Kashmir for you. We have sent these diamonds for you. What would you like to send back to Ahmad Shah Abdali? You know, Hari Singh Pangi said, Oh Ram Singh! Oh Ram Singh! He turns around. Oh Ram Singh! Ram Singh goes, Hanji, Hanji. He goes, Oh Ram Singh! ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਖੇਸੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੈਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਠੰਡ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਗਰਮੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਥੱਲੇ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਪਾਟੀ ਹੋਈ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਖੇਸੀ ਇੱਕ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਵੀਂ. ਇੱਕ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੱਦੂ ਪਏ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਕਰ ਮਿੱਟੀ 'ਚੋਂ ਪੁੱਟ ਕੇ ਲੈ ਆ, ਮਿੱਟੀ ਸਣੇ ਹੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਲੈ ਆ ਤੂੰ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅੱਛਾ. ਤੇ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਲਗਮ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਆ. ਹਾਂਜੀ ਉਹ ਵਧੇ ਮੂਲੀ. ਹਾਂ No, it's shalgam or something like that. Muliyan si? Okay, I forgot. Okay, so he goes, ek ta muliyan laya, ek shawl laya. That pata shawl. And he gets it, he takes the stuff out of the basket, throws it on the floor. He puts his pata hoya shawl in there. He throws his dirty vegetables inside. And he goes, ja ke Ahmad Shah Abdali de mathe ch mari hai te Ahmad Shah nu keh dein Hari Singh da sir le sakda hai par apne bhraਵਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗਦਾਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰੇਗਾ. Hari Singh Pangi says, take this battered shawl that has got holes in it. How is a Sikh a king? What is that internal Anandapur which makes us strong? Take this battered shawl, take this shawl which is holy with holes in it. Right? Thank you ji, bahut bahut. Right, so take this shawl, take these shalgams, these muliyan, and he goes, throw them back at Ahmad Shah Abdali and tell Abdali, I'd rather sleep on the floor, I'd rather wear ripped clothes, I'd rather eat vegetables out of the ground and have nothing else to live on than come and join you. I'm a king. I don't need you to make me a king. मैं हरी सिंह हाँ. My father's name is Guru Gobind Singh. My mother's name is Mata Sahib Deva. And my home is Anandpur Sahib. A Sikhiya. This is Sikhi. What is it? That is Sikhi. What is it? This is Sikhi. I'm going to give you two examples. I'll finish. I know that you've heard these, but you need to become these kings. Then the Raj is going to fall down in front of us. Dilli takht par behengi, aap guru ki fauj, shatar chalenge, sees par badi karengi mauj. But you have to become the kings. The throne is going to fall down. Baba Atar Singh Mastuan Wale. And this is a real picture, so I would advise those of you who haven't seen a real picture of Baba Atar Singh ji to have a look at the screen. This is probably one of the greatest Sikhs of the last 100 years. This here, there. Real picture, real photo. Baba Atar Singh ji, Mastuan Wale. How does a Sikh challenge the emperors? King George from jolly old England was coming to India. And when King George was coming, there was going to be a parade in Delhi. And every nation inside India, and we are our own nation, were called. Khalsa Sarkar hai saadi, we are the Khalsa nation. The mighty, mighty Khalsa, as the song goes. And it's true. Baba Atar Singh ji was asked by the king of Nabha. He said, Baba ji, will you come in the parade? Baba ji said, I will. But ik shartya. He said, what? He said, Baba ji said, I will come, get an elephant ready. The Maharaja said, for you, Baba ji? Baba ji says, no, for Guru Granth Sahib ji. Guru Granth Sahib ji will be on the elephant. I will be behind Guru Granth Sahib ji Maharaj. And we will go with the true king. Sri Guru Granth Sahib ji Maharaj is there. You can see Tan Guru Granth Sahib ji Maharaj. If you look just here, there, that's Guru Granth Sahib ji in this picture. And Baba ji came over to here as well and sat behind. You see a Nyang Singh standing there. Right? Baba Atar Singh ji is sitting upon the hathi, the elephant, and he sees King George. And he knows this is a man in whose kingdom the sun never sets. Britain commanded everything. So much they ruled over the world. Okay, they left here, but they commanded most of the world. Imagine standing up in front of the President of the United States, who commands the most power in the world at that time. King George is the equivalent. Baba Atar Singh sees King George and he points at King George and he starts singing. What does he sing? He sings this line from Guru Granth Sahib ji. And he sings it in Tarna. He says, Koi hari de saman nahi raja, jhoote raje char dina de. Koi hari de saman nahi raja, jhoote raje char dina de. And he sings again and again, louder and louder. Ko hari de saman nahi raja. There is no king like Guru Granth Sahib ji Maharaj. There is no king like Vaheguru. There is no king like a Gursikh who has the Guru beating through his veins. Baba Atar Singh stood out, pointed at King George and said, you may be the king of Britain and you may have a crown upon your head, but I know a king who 300 years ago had a chaur being waved above his head and still has a chaur being waved above his head today. I know a king who sat on a throne 300 years ago and he still sits on a throne today. That is what you call Sikhi. I'm going to give you last example, I'll finish. Sant Gyani Kartar Singh ji Pindramwale. The face that changed the history of India. This is that face, have a look at it. This is the face that changed the history of India. This is the face that trained Sant Jarnail Singh. This is the face that challenged the Indian government. 1975, when the Indian government was celebrating 300 years of Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji Shahidi. At that moment, Sant Jarnail Singh sitting on stage, Sant Kartar Singh sitting on stage, many other personalities are sitting on stage. And who walks in to the Ram Leela ground? Indira Gandhi. When she walks in, everybody stands up. There's one person who stays sitting, Sant Jarnail Singh, Sant Kartar Singh. He stays sitting. He goes on stage, he says, I need 2 minutes to speak. Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India, is sitting down. Sant Kartar Singh says, Indra, मेरी गल सुन ले, जे तू लखां वारी अपना सिर कट के ते गुरु ग्रंथ साहिब जी दे चरनां च रखे ना, फिर भी तू गुरु तेग बहादुर साहिब दी शहीदी दा मुल नहीं चुका सकदा. Even then you can't give the amount of sacrifice of Guru Tegh Bahadur. I'm going to finish here. These are faces who challenged. These are people who became kings. And the kings of the world had to fall down before them. Khalsa ji, benti a, apne ghare Anandpur Sahib aa jao. Please come home to Anandpur Sahib. When you come home to Anandpur Sahib, you'll live and die in Anandpur Sahib. Those people who die in Anandpur Sahib, they never have to be born again. That's all I want to say. I'm dropping the mic here.